Are they gonna come out or what? You alright? So as you can see, I was in a car crash a couple weeks ago. It certainly wasn't an interesting car crash with no drama, but I just felt like doing a video on my first ever car crash in 3 years of driving as well, so not bad as far as I'm concerned. Now, as you can see at the beginning of the video, it is muted. When I took the dashcam footage, I realised I was singing. Also, if you realise what song it is in the background, it's proof. The song is proof that I don't touch my phone when driving because it was a shit song and I didn't want it to be on, so... you know. But the actual crash itself wasn't fun. Let me set the scene. So I was driving down into Enfield to go see my nan because she wanted me to fly a drone over her house to film something. And this journey was already terrible. What should have been a 35 to 40 minute journey was already over an hour because they decided to close down half of the lanes on the A10 on the way into Enfield, which was a huge pain in the arse. And so then I get to this roundabout, this 4-lane busy roundabout called Great Cambridge Roundabout, just so everyone knows where I am in this story, so everyone can Google Maps it and analyse it themselves. I was in the 4th lane because I was turning like around to go, so you guys can see I'm going around to the right. There we go. Yeah, directions. And this roundabout has traffic lights on the actual roundabout itself. That is one of those ones where it's really busy, so it has traffic lights on the roundabouts and traffic lights telling you when to go onto the roundabout. So all pretty self-explanatory, right, on how roundabouts work, especially when traffic lights are involved. It should be a lot easier. However, this is Enfield. People don't drive normally in Enfield. Something else I also learned is the traffic lights themselves are very badly angled, so you can only see the lights like when you're a couple feet away from them. And they're also very fast when I later spoke to my nan, who obviously goes on this roundabout loads because she lives right next to it. Now, this is when the incident happens. I go onto the roundabout, perfectly fine. I was the first one in the line at the traffic lights to begin with, as seen by the dashcam clip. And I go on, I was going fine, and then I see the light in front of me is amber, but I didn't see, because of the dim lights, the fact that they're very dim, like myself, I didn't see when it changed from red to amber. Sorry, I mean green to amber. So I didn't know how much was left of the light before it went red. Don't really want to risk getting in a crash or being caught. They have a lot of red light cameras in Enfield, so it's not really worth the risk, to be honest. So I do the obvious thing and stop. I stop. With my brake pedal, you know, normal, I stop. As soon as my car has stopped, so you know when, like, at least when I do it, when I'm braking, you brake kind of harsh, not really harsh, but you brake down, you depress the pedal, and then when you've stopped, or at least what I like to do to make it smooth, chauffeur's braking, you know what I'm saying, is when you've stopped, you obviously lift off the pedal a bit, but you keep your foot on the brake, just not as firm because you're not stopping it, you're just keeping it still. If you drive, you should know what I'm on about. And as I was doing this, I get shunted from behind. I get rear-ended. And not in the sexual manner. Now, I already know from stories that I've heard, I've never been in a crash, luckily, but what I've heard, well, I've never been in a crash prior to this one, but what I've heard from people who have been in crashes is it always feels faster and harder than it actually is. So in likelihood, he was probably going 10 miles per hour maximum, I'd say. Around 10, I'd reckon 10 miles per hour. I didn't ask him, I probably should have. I see him in my rear view mirror, and I see that he's just obviously behind me. But because it felt very hard, I was like, my car's fucked, you know? The boot's gonna be crinkled, so it doesn't, like, so it doesn't open. All the door panel lining's gonna be out. I knew the headlight was definitely gonna be smashed. I was obviously hoping that the wheels and the chassis wasn't bent so I could still at least drive it to my nan's and then home. I then decided to fiddle with my indicators and hazard lights, because the car, as I'll demonstrate in the car I'm currently in, was indicating. Because I was still going around, it was indicating to the right. And I know in a lot of cars, when it senses that a crash has happened, it puts the hazard lights on for you. So I was like, oh, the hazard lights are on. Then I looked down and they weren't. So I decided to fiddle by turning the indicator off and putting the hazards on. Don't know why it took me so long to do that, but it did. And then I also checked that because also in a lot of cars, when you're in a car crash, it'll cut the engine because you're in a car crash. Or if it's a manual, you may stall it from being shunted. Because I did go like a couple feet forwards, as you see from this picture, because my car is over the line when I always stop behind the line, because lines are either there to be done or stay behind, different kind of lines. But yeah, I then checked and the engine was on, which also surprised me. I thought it would have cut out. Cheekily threw it into neutral and put the handbrake on. Then I got my phone to start recording, because the last thing I want is to get out and this guy's like and he's just like shouting at me and shit. So then if it's on camera, it's good, you know. Or if he admits to it and then later on says, oh, it wasn't my fault, oh no. Anyway, get out. You've seen the video that I ask if he's okay. It's the first thing I ask and he seems fine. He seems just more like, well, it's another thing I gotta do just to get through the day. He didn't seem angry, he didn't seem like really annoyed. He was just like kind of neutral, just like, meh. You know, I have to deal with this now. He was looking at the damage, of course. I don't think he spoke English that well. He didn't speak that much. That's probably why I didn't ask him how fast he was going, actually. Got out, asked if he was all right, started filming on my phone, which I filmed really poorly because I just wanted it for the audio, but here's that. Do you wanna... I don't know this area that well. Is there anywhere good to pull off? Yeah, but... get your details in. And as you can see, there's literally nothing interesting that I filmed. I stopped filming because I was like, this guy's perfectly fine. He just wants to take photos of the incident, which is the smart thing to do. Because the first thing I asked him was, we should move the cars, because we're on literally a very busy roundabout in outer London that thousands of cars go through probably every 5 minutes. So I was like, kind of blocking everyone up here. We should, you know, just like move them somewhere first and then deal with it. But he was like, no, I definitely reckon he's been in a crash before, because he knew what he was doing. He was like, no, take photos first. I was like, all right, fair enough. So I took photos of the incident and all the damage. His damage was a lot worse, which we'll get onto later. After taking photos, he was like, where are you going? I was like, going down there. So I went around the corner. I do need to turn this car on, actually, otherwise it's going to run out of battery. Oh, is this car broken? Oh, fuck off. Why is this car not starting? That worried me then. I don't know if you heard, but I was literally, the car that I'm in, the rental car, I was doing the key and it wasn't doing anything. I did not... This has a start-stop system as well, so I feel like the batteries in here should be really good. I've only been sitting here for, what, 20 minutes? Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so then we left the roundabout, drove in the direction of my nan's house, which was helpful for me. Just went down some street, some residential street, parked up there. Double yellow line, so I haven't got a parking ticket yet, so hopefully there was no cameras there. That's when we exchanged details. We just, you know, like you can print off like a one-page thing, a certificate of declaration that you have insurance, whatever the fuck they like to call it. We just took pictures of each other's ones of them, wrote each other's name down, got each other's numbers, and that was it. I even said to him, like, when we parked, because obviously his headlight was completely smashed. We'll get into the damage later, don't worry. His headlight was completely gone. I said to him, like, do you want to turn the lights on and I'll tell you if they work? And he was like, no. He just wanted to get on with his day. He just wanted to get it over with and get on with his day. He did not want to interact with me any longer than necessary, which is fair enough. It was all good, all civil and everything, and then I drove to my nan's house. Because I didn't really speak to him that much. He wasn't really giving much information, probably because he just... You're not really supposed to, you're meant to let the insurance companies decide on this shit. But what I think was happening was he was changing lane on the roundabout, was changing out of the lane I was in into the lane to my left. And because when you change lane, obviously you make sure it's okay in front of you, and then you look to make sure that lane's clear to squeeze in. And I think obviously he was looking, and then I stopped because of the light. But whilst I stopped because of the light, he was still looking in the lane next to him to see if it was clear, because his front right corner hit my back left corner. So that's why I've kind of deciphered that. And so the damage itself, my car, I'm not even gonna lie, my car took it like a Volvo or a Tesla, because they're very good in crashes. My car took it so well. I was really surprised. I thought, my car's it's a Corsa, it's a cheaply made car if you think about it. I thought that the whole rear bumper would be gone, the lights themselves wouldn't work, that the boot wouldn't be able to open, that on the inside of the boot you can see like where the spare wheel is. I thought all that metal would be crinkled up and shit, which it wasn't. I thought the door panels like along this side would be like misaligned and shit, but it wasn't. The damage on mine was the bumper was cracked and smashed up, still pretty much a one piece. The light itself, the rear light, had taken the main brunt of the impact, because it had the lens had completely shattered. But the lights themselves still worked. The hazard lights worked and the brake lights worked, except the brake lights were white because they're white lights and they're made red by the lens itself. But I had 2 other working brake lights, so it's perfectly fine. And I drove past police on the way back home from my nan's after that, and they didn't care. But his damage was a lot worse. So obviously there's more shit at the front of your car anyway. So his headlight was smashed, his fog light lower down was smashed, his bumper was all scratched up. I don't know what you call it. I know in America you call it a fender, so I'm going to call it that. The fender was all dented up. There was plastic around like the wheel arch that was like hanging off as well. He had front sensors as well, and they were damaged and hanging off a little bit. And I don't know about his tire, but his front right tire, there's a mark on my, or there was a mark on my rear bumper, a black mark, so I definitely reckon that was his tire. I doubt it, but if that did create a bulge in the tire, then he does have to get that changed. The worst part of his damage was his bonnet was dented and it was raised. So I think his bonnet hit where my light was, and somehow my light was stronger than his bonnet, because his bonnet's a big piece of metal, isn't it? So it was bent, and because it was up, the hinges are probably damaged on it, so that's going to be very expensive for it to be repaired. Feel sorry for his insurance company. But yeah, that was the extent of his damage. To be fair, it ended quite well. Before I left my nan's house though, I did pick out all the pieces that were left in the actual light cluster itself, just so they didn't fly out when I was going up the A10 back home. Literally just taking all these out so they don't fucking fall over on the road. That's all good. Nice proper bent out shape, that's gonna be fine. And my car drove perfectly fine afterwards, so there's no damage to the chassis or anything. And when I got home that day, I compiled all of the shit that I might need before calling the insurance companies, including, I got his license plate and everything. And me being me, I do this a lot with cars whenever I'm looking at buying them, or I'm just curious. When my friend's got a new car or something, I always look at the MOT history of a car. And so I looked at the MOT history of his. The last one it had, it failed and then redid it. All of the advisories were there. He only fixed what needed to be fixed, so it kind of shown that the car was run on maybe a budget or something, because there were a big list of shit that needed to be fixed. It's interesting, because no comment, I'm just gonna let you imagine what I'm implying with this. On the MOT history for his car, it said that I think 3 of the tyres were bald by the MOT was done, which was in February, so they most likely were underneath the legal limit now. The brakes as well were recommended to be redone because they were also wearing thin, so they could even be below the legal limit as well. So it was a bit, you know, all the stuff to do with stopping, like the grip of the tyres and the strength of the brakes, kind of ended up with him rear-ending someone. And I'll be honest with you, I think he would have crashed anyway, because like I said, how it happened, I reckon he wasn't even thinking of braking when he crashed into me. That's probably why it felt harder than it was, because he wasn't braking, because like I said, I reckon he was looking and then crashed into me. So you wouldn't brake if you're looking over there, you'd still let it keep rolling or be accelerating. And now, as the aftermath, it's worked out pretty well, to be honest. I called up his insurance. It was a bit of a mess because I have third-party insurance. So I called up my insurance, made the claim, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of an hour of speaking on the phone, she was like, oh yeah, so because you have third party, you have to call his insurance. Like, right, okay, cheers. She gave me a number, which linked to some random guy who couldn't even speak over the phone properly. So then he gave me another number that was incorrect. So then I just Googled from the photos that I'd taken of the other guy's insurance company, and called that his insurance from that, and they were very good. It was a bit weird because as soon as I got on the phone, explained who I was, they were like, oh yeah, okay, we'll repair your car for you. Do you not want any details of what happened? No, we've got it all written here. Okay, bit weird. It's first insurance claim, blah, blah, blah. Go through it. Agree to get, or when to get the rental car in, what company's going to repair my car and all this shit. And then I'm thinking, and after having a chat with my mother, I'm like, he didn't tell me that the other guy admitted liability, admitted that it was his fault for causing the accident. So I called up the insurance company again. I was like, yeah, weird question, but did the guy admit fault? And the person over the phone was like, yeah, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't repair your car. I'm just checking. I don't want you to repair my car and then be like, yo, give me $1,000. Like, I don't really want that to happen personally. Currently, it's like, I think it's like a week and a half later from the crash, because it happened on the weekend. That's probably why I was so busy as well, because it was at the weekend. Was it at the weekend? No, it wasn't even at the weekend. I'm just chatting shit, aren't I? I got this lovely rental car right here. It's a Hyundai i10. It's got half the horsepower of my car, and the gear ratios are made to make up for it. So it could do with like 3 extra gears, but It's a nice car, I ain't even gonna lie, it's a nice car, this rental. Especially when I could have got a fucking Fiat 500. My legs don't even fit in those, so it would have been a bit of an issue, that. Got a fucking Hyundai i10 with the best thing ever, the Android Auto. We're not gonna look at that actually, because you're gonna find out where I'm filming this. But just take my word for it being cool on that. Let's just zoom all the way out, there we go. Boom, look. How good is, why the fuck is England on its side? Jesus Christ, we get a new fucking Prime Minister and it's already lopsided. And this car's as sick. I've already obviously put my own thing on the keys because I gotta keep it in there. Shout out to the other stuff, of course. And it is, as you can already see, a fucking sick colour. Oh my god, the ISO's gone white. It's a fucking beautiful colour. That's the number plate. Doesn't even need an MOT for like 3 years because it's literally brand new. Got 7,000 miles on it. It looks decent. Only got 65 brake horsepower though, which is a bit shit. And as already mentioned, the most important part is not me breaking the synchros, but boom, reverse camera that turns when you turn the steering wheel. How sick is that? Yeah, my car was collected for repair. Everyone was nice as well that collected my car, that delivered this rental car, the people that I spoke over the phone for insurance and shit. So it's all been a pleasant experience, to be honest. I've come out of this quite well. I'm getting a new bumper put on my car. It's not bad, is it? And also, I don't actually know if my no claims is affected by this, because my insurance company sent me a letter being like, because it's an ongoing situation, your no claims may be molested, but it's just on temporary hold right now. We don't know yet. So as soon as I get my car back and this car given back, I'm gonna call my insurance be like, so you know you love me, yeah? You wanna like caress and protect my 3 year no claims bonus, yeah? Ah, cheers, like nice. There has to be a moral to every story, so we're gonna create a moral for this one, yeah? Long story short, don't crash into my car, please. Thank you.